Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we are on our new project. We just set our helical piles in place. Our engineer just left. That was quick. We usually have to dig, pour, and then wait. But now we've dug these piles in and they're ready to go, man. So pretty stoked about that. New technology for us. So check out MassCore helical piles when you get a minute. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon to be notified when we're putting out fresh content. And talking about subscribing, we just hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers. Hip hip, hooray. So I just wanted to thank everyone for entering our contest. We will be announcing our winners soon. We also want to thank Regal Ideas, Stabila, and Blocklauder for their generous donations to our contest. So great prizes. Hope you guys enjoy them when we get those out to you. All right, so what we're building today is a big rectangle, but what makes it special is there's only 4 posts that hold this deck up. It's massive. It's 15 by 34 feet, and there's a 33-foot span in between the posts. So we have to use a 6-inch by 24-inch by 35-foot glue lam, which are very heavy. So we're going to use our Bobcat to boost those. We use the Bobcat to set the helical piles. Now we're going to use the Bobcat to set those beams in place as well. So here's a look at our newest design. Here's the house. There's an existing deck right here, and we're going to pull all the decking off of that and make it all match. This deck is 2 steps above this one. So there'll be a step that goes in between here. And then this deck is massive. It's 15 by 34, 2 by 12 joists. We have V-bracing going this way. We're locking this thing into the house and into the existing deck. So that's the overhead view. These are all approved, engineered plans through the city of Tacoma. Here's the front view. You can see how big these beams are to scale when we do this. And then our posts are like right here. They're actually going to be sitting in just a little bit on the ends of this. But yeah, you can kind of get an idea of the size of that. And those things are going to be really fun to install. And then from the side, here's the existing deck. There's the new step, and then our deck is up here. So we're using black Regal Ideas black frame with glass for our railing, and we're using TimberTech AZEK decking. All right, so we have our helical piles already installed in the ground. So now we have one footing that we need to install a different type of bracket because there was a concrete footing in the way, so we couldn't put a helical pile over there. So now we're going to start figuring out elevations for our deck. So I'm gonna have to do a little figuring out with the size of our glue lam, subtract that out of our overall height, and then we can start cutting down our posts and getting those mounted and braced and ready for the beams. Don't forget All right, so one of our piles isn't quite in the right spot. We thought it was, but we just did some more accurate measurements and we're like, ooh, it's too far this way, which would mean the beam's just gonna be, it won't work with the house, or the post will be out of level, too much out of level. So we're gonna pull that pile out and put in another one and try to get it a little bit closer to where we need it. We're having some issues with that hole because there's some rocks down below the grade that were pushing our pin or our pile into basically the wrong position every time. So it took us a minute, and we kept trying different angles, and we finally were able to get our new pile fitting properly. So now that we've got that done, we have the right pressure, everything's good to go. We can start cutting our posts down and mounting the column caps on them and start bracing our posts for the beams. All right, so now we're justifying grade. Now that our piles are in the ground and they're good to go, I've taken a Stabila LAR 350, which is right over there, and I've shot a laser level line on the house. And then I took where I want the grade of the bottom of my glue lambs to be, and I came up with a number, and that number is 55 5/8. So now what I have to do is take a grading stick and find out where the laser hits on the grading stick, okay? So I have a receiver that'll find the laser line, and if you zoom in, you can kind of see where this arrow's going, right? And there's basically, there it is. So I put a mark on my elevation stick. Then I measure that measurement, and then I add that other measurement I took to the laser on the house, which is 55 5/8, and I added that to this measurement here, which was 63 and something, and it came up with 118 3/4, and that is the height that we are going to cut this post at, is 118 3/4. I wrote it in Sharpie on here, so now the guys know what to cut the post height at, and they can get it cut and they can start mounting it, and then we can start squaring it up and getting it braced. I think a standard will cut through in 2 cuts, and the big one won't. We cut in 1 cut, so you might as well just, yeah.
What's this called?
This is a hot dip galvanized Simpson bracket for the glue lamb to sit into. These are really awesome and fairly expensive brackets. We usually don't use them a whole lot on our projects, but on this particular project we are, because it's such a heavy duty deck.
It's a bracket and a half.
Yeah. We have to put a small detail on the outside edge, or the top edge of our posts, because of these welds right here. These welds make it difficult for the bracket to sit completely flat on top of the post. So we're gonna route it, put a route detail on it, so that this will sit completely flat on top of the post. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we're framing away on our new deck project in Ruston, Washington. It's a suburb of Tacoma. We are just early in the framing stages. We have our massive 6-inch by 24-inch by 34-foot glue lambs up in the air. That was an exciting day yesterday. Sorry we couldn't document that one, but we got you today. So we were able to manage to get these beams in place. I'm just notching this one out right now because we have kind of a unique look we're going for on the outside of the deck, and I'm trying to keep the beam as dry as possible. These beams are not pressure treated, so they have to remain dry. They're glue lambs, 5.5 wide by 24 inches deep. I ordered 35 footers, but I got a 35 and a 36 footer. So I just cut off the end off of this one right here. Made quite the thud when it hit the ground. We actually managed to set these with my Bobcat, and I had to take my forks and invert them so I could get an extra couple feet of lift. And with that extra lift, we were able to get the beam up just enough to where we could sneak it in. This one up against the house was really tricky. It took us quite a while to get installed, but we got it installed safely. Nobody was injured or anything like that, so we're really happy about that. The guys right now are cutting down all of our joists to length. I've given them a predetermined length that I want to cut our framing joists at. And then I'm going to do a layout on the beams so that they can get started on installing some of the joists while I finish cutting all the ends in. So I had to cut this one with a chainsaw because of this bracket was in the way, and I was just going to run into problems using my big oversized skill saw to cut it down. So I got a little off on the bottom, but we're going to be trimming these beams out anyway, so it's not really going to matter. Because like I said before, we have to keep them completely dry because we don't want them getting any moisture. They're not designed to be wet. So anyway, we're wrapping some of it in G-tape. Other parts we're going to bladder. It just kind of depends on the location and what's being attached to the beam for fascia and that kind of stuff. So follow along and see how we do.
Well, I guess we'll go and test it out, man.
I like it. Mark the outside of that.
See?
All right, so I have this really long piece of straight aluminum, and it's very straight. It's straighter than most pieces of lumber, and it's lightweight. So I use that piece of aluminum to square up my deck. So I use this big, it's a fold-out square made by Stanley. Volume up. Stanley makes this square. And I don't know exactly where you find it. Probably on Amazon. You see it right there. It's kind of old, but it works really good. It just folds out into a big 90-degree angle, right? So instead of using a 3-4-5, I use one of these. And I have a couple of different versions of it. This one actually shows a true 45 angle. My other one is a different, it's like a 3-4-5. And this one's more of an equal distant, both sides with a center being. The only thing you gotta look out for is right here. This can be a little loose. So if you're trying to use this as a straight edge, I always put a level across it to make sure I'm on point. I've committed to this side. I know that this beam is straight and I know it's tight up against the house. So now I've squared up this side of the deck. So now I can cut this end, and then this end's ready to go as far as we can, once I get a layout. What I'm gonna do is cut this end in, figure out my layout, and start giving the guys some measurements so they can start hanging joists over here. And then I'll finish my layout and cutting the beams back on the other side, and then we'll just keep framing from there. So, but that's what that's what we just did with that plank, was squared up the end. I'm gonna double check down there after I pull some other measurements and get this other beam cut, and then we'll go from there.
So there's a little, on the helical pile, we have a little opening right here to lock the actual pile to the bracket to hold the 6x6. So the little bolt we have was a little long, so I'm taking a grinder, grinding down the bolt to about maybe a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. Then I'm just inserting the bolts so they don't stick out too long, so it's a prettier look.
So I'm putting in these ML24Zs.
You meant the L90s, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Had a little Friday/Wednesday brain mush and forgot. So by using this L90Z that Simpson makes, we're covering more. It's a much bigger bracket, so it's going to hold this 2x12 stronger than that ML24Z. I don't know who decided to use that. Wasn't. Maybe it was.
So I bought this 40-foot Fat Max the other day because I thought I was at the hardware store and I'm always losing the tape measures in my truck. I go, if I put a 40-footer in my truck, I'm never going to use it on the job site because it's so big and bulky and heavy. I'll never want to carry it in my apron. And then we end up doing this deck, which is a 35-foot layout. I didn't even know Stanley made a Fat Max 40-footer, and yet here it is. And I was able to do my entire layout on this beam in one setting with this tape and just took the measurements. So I'm really grateful that I had this with me today. I probably will end up keeping this in the trailer now and then getting another one for my truck. All right, so I just finished our layout. We have this side of the beams cut. We are ready to start putting in joists. So we're gonna start doing that, and then we're gonna pin both ends in and probably the center, see how the center of the deck's doing. And then we're just gonna start running joists. Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we are continuing on our framing on our project in north end of Tacoma, Washington. All right, so we got most of our joists up last week, but we still have a couple on the end to do, and we're actually putting in what I call ladders right now, where we add all this additional blocking because we're gonna run deck boards perpendicular to the frame to kind of trim out the ends of the deck and make it look a little bit nicer. It's really just a way to put an alternate surface border in when you're over a certain width of deck. This deck is 34 feet wide. They do not make 34-foot long decking, so we have to come up with ways to break the deck boards to make them look nice. So that's what we're doing right now, is adding all that framing. We have a little bit of flashing to do up against the house over here where the beam is connected to the house, and just various other areas where we might be doing some V-bracing today if we get to it, plus just a little more G-taping. Probably be taping up all the joists. I don't know if we'll get to that today or not. If we do, great. The rain came this morning. I think it's done for the day, so we'll probably have the rest of the day dry, which is great. It's just really windy today, so we got to be careful and watch ourselves when we're up on this deck. We've had some 30-40 mile-an-hour gusts so far, kind of catch you off guard. So that's an update for what we got going on, and I'll give you another one here in a minute. This is an example of what we're doing right now. Nazi is up here adding the blocking, so if you look up, that's going to catch an alternate direction surface border that's going to wrap around the entire deck. So it's a double this time, because if we try to do 16 footers, which is 32 feet, and then we need to catch 2 feet of border material, if we only do 4 boards, we're not going to make that extra 2 feet. It's only going to be 22, maybe 23 inches. Plus, we got to go a little wider because we're doing a different kind of fascia detail on the outside of this deck, kind of to match the house. So, but basically what's going on right now is he's adding all the blocking, and we have to do the ladders first. Once the ladders are done, then we can do some mid-span pressure blocking to really tighten up the center of the deck. It helps with deflection, keeps everything tight and everything straight. I already have a set of master measurements that I made last week, so we're going to take a tape measure, go up top, and put a temporary screw in each joist with 2x4s to kind of, because all the joists right now, they're straight like this, but they also go like this. So what we want to do is kind of lock them into place. Once they're locked into place, then the guys can take all the measurements, cut all the blocking, and start installing all the mid-span pressure blocking. And we're using Fast & Master 4-inch Fast & Master timber locks to install all of this. If I use construction screws, those work, but sometimes they squeak. When you get deflection and they squeak, or when you walk on the deck and they squeak, that's a problem that'll happen probably not till next summer, but we're trying to alleviate it now. We just know better, because I've had to go back and fix these things because we didn't use the right screws. So we're using construction legs instead of construction screws to lock everything together and suck it up real tight.
Very important to get these blocks flush, because if they're up too high, it'll show on our decking. So we don't want decking that goes like this. So I'm getting these flush. This is my last one. It's going to be pretty strong, and then putting 2 Fasten Master 4-inch, timber locks in here. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side.
If we shave the tips of our bits, our 5/16 when we're running some timber locks, they have this flanged head, right? And if we leave them unshaved, sometimes they strip or they don't countersink as good as if we shave the head. So we're always shaving the heads down on our nut drivers to get a really nice fit, and so they actually sink in a little bit deeper. I'll show you an example. So this is an unshaved bit, and it sits a little bit fatter than the outside of the lip of the timber lock. And also, if you have to remove one, having a shaved bit's a lot easier to pull these out. So just a quick tip for you, anybody that's using these products or that tries them out, if you sand down your tips of your 5/16, they do break easier, they do snap easier. We can still install 100 of these before they break usually. It's just something that makes things a little bit easier to go, a little bit quicker to make.
How's it going?
Good. Had a nice vacation, little Thanksgiving vacation. Right now we're getting the blocking ready for the border right here. The deck boards are going to be running from left to right, and on both borders they're going to be running from top to bottom. So we have to put some blocking in there for the boards to screw down to. So he gave me a certain measurement. Now we're getting 10 boards prepped and ready for Nas to install using 4-inch timber lock screws.
So we put in a center board, a temporary 2x4, and we took the layout of the deck, which I have right here, and I pulled across the center of the deck, and we put a screw everywhere that the joist needed to be on these centers. That way all the joists are kind of locked into place now. So now we can finish putting all of our blocks in, and I can start my V-bracing as well, and nothing's gonna move. Everything's locked in place. So we're committed to this dimension. Everything looks good. It's nice and straight, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. So we'll go on to the next step,
Which is
more blocking. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we are installing TimberTech AZEK decking. The color is called English Walnut, and we're using stainless steel Fasten Master star drive screws. It's called a hidden fastener system called Cortex. Okay, so basically what I've done is I have the first board set. We're doing an outside surface border with a miter because on this particular deck we're showing the end grains off, versus usually we cap them off. But because of the way this deck is built, the way we ran the fascia boards, it has to be done this way. And we want to protect these glue lambs from getting wet. So because of the extenuating circumstances of some of the physicalities of this build, we're trimming it out a little bit differently than we normally do. So I've picked my points. I have my first board set in place. Now it's going to be just us basically laying decking, screwing it down, and Cortexing. That's all we're gonna get done today. And it's just all about installing decking. So if you have any questions about it though, or you're just like, hey, wow, that's really cool, or hey, doctor, I'm having an issue with this, whatever, leave it down below, leave your comments below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. You can also check out our Instagram page, at drdecks on Instagram, and we can also try to answer your questions there as well. All right, let's check this out. So the last time we used these clamps, these are really cool. We've done a review on these. These are deck cinching clamps. They have a special adapter on them. Probably seen us use them several times. It was raining so hard. The last time we used these, they've completely rusted out. We got to take some steel wool and clean these bars because it makes it really hard for the clamp to move back and forth with the rust spots. But if you try to use WD-40 on them or something like that, then you ruin the clamp. So like they just don't work. So you kind of have to have a happy medium when you do this. So that's what I'm doing right now is when we're face screwing decking, we can install 5 deck boards at a time instead of 1 deck board at a time when we're using a clip. The only difference is we have to go back once we're done and add the little plugs. But it really doesn't take that much time, especially when we have collated plugs. Like we have collated plugs today for this deck, so we'll be able to plug a deck. Like this half of this deck may take an hour to plug, but when you can lay 5 deck boards at a time, it goes a lot faster than if you're doing 1 deck board at a time. All right, and another thing we do when we're installing our decking is we like to use white chalk. Just picked up a brand new chalk line. White chalk cleans up real easy. No big deal, that cleans right up. Don't use red chalk on a deck. Even blue chalk can be tough. We used blue chalk on our last project because it was so wet. I actually ruined the chalk line, but it was the only way we could transfer the lines. But when you're using blue chalk, you have to clean it up immediately. It's my recommendation. If you don't, you may end up with some staining on your PVC. It usually can come out, but it's very difficult to get out at times. But if you use red, that's pretty permanent, man. So don't use red chalk when you're chalking off your deck. Now I'm gonna chalk some straight lines. Even though we're Cortexing this deck and it really doesn't matter, there's 3 of us that are gonna be putting the screws in this thing. So I wanna be as consistent as possible, even though we're all a little bit different on how we install our screws, but it'll make it look a little cleaner in the end. And that way there's no misfires. Everybody's kinda on point where they need to be with their screws, and gives me a little more confidence that all 3 of us will be on the same page as we lay this deck down. So that's the next step, and that's what we're going for here in just a few minutes. Hey guys, Dr. Dex here, coming to you hot from Tacoma, Washington. Turn around for a sec, Cal. Let's show them where we live. Not bad. Once you get past these power lines, it's a pretty nice view. And the other rooftops and houses. Anyways, today it's a little bit about cleaning things up, some finish, getting some stuff off the job site. We're almost finished putting all the decking down on the top of this upper deck. And now we're working on the lower existing deck. And we have some trim work to do, some fascia, finish up that. A lot of loose ends to button up. So I just kind of finished up this corner over here. That looks kind of cool. It's kind of a unique thing that I did, because when you're building decks, sometimes you got to come up with clever ways or unique ways to finish things off. And I'll show you a couple examples of that right now. So follow along and see how we do. Sometimes when you're building a deck and you're committed to a specific size of that deck, you can't control where the deck's gonna end, where the deck boards are gonna stop. So basically what we ended up doing on this particular deck was we ran all 5.5-inch deck boards, except for the last board on the deck became a piece of 7.25-inch multi-width TimberTech AZEK decking. You can kind of see down here how the boards are all 5.5, but to get the coverage we needed for the last board, we had to end up adding a wider board on the very end, which then in turn kind of changed how we trimmed out our outside edges. Again, because the overall width of this deck is 34 feet, it did make sense to buy 20 footers and put one small seam in the middle of the deck and lose 3 feet on each board. So what we did is we used 16 footers, and then we did a double surface border in the middle and then on each end of the deck, which allowed us to gain the extra inches we need to create 16-foot planks plus have the breaker boards to catch our 34-foot width of deck. So over here we had another special instance where we tied the outside fascia board into the existing post of the house so that we could have our railing continuous. So that'll be a nice transitional look. Instead of having to do a pivoted or an angled piece of railing going down the stairs, we're just gonna have one clean line of glass here, then the deck level drops and another clean line of glass over there. And I just thought it'd be kind of a cool way to transition this area of the deck. So basically there's this deck, one step, and then the lower deck area, which we spent quite a bit of time yesterday. That's the construction shortcut, the alleyway. And we spent quite a bit of time yesterday working on this lower deck frame because it was pitched 2.5 inches too much. There's really no reason to have that much pitch. The homeowners were really happy when they realized that we were gonna raise that up and level it out for them. So the guys are working on that right now. I'm just trying to finish up a couple trim pieces, and then we'll start framing in and adding some more support to this lower deck as well.
Yeah.
I am making a piece of trim to put up against the house where we have a small gap for where the deck board ends and the end of the house is, because we started laying our decking from the very outside of the deck and worked it all the way in, and we got pretty lucky. Our last deck board is very close to the end of the house, within an inch. So this board is an inch thick, so it's kind of like a beauty trim piece, kind of like a baseboard in the inside of your house. I'm gonna put this up and kind of lock it in so that we have a nice little piece of trim that finishes things off and covers up the hole.
Alright, so right now we just finished fastening our rim joist on this existing deck to our beam. We finished installing this guy to the house, and then now I'm coming through with our planer. And we didn't install this deck, so some of the joists are up, down, whatever. So I'm taking my 8-foot level and finding out where the high joists are, and then taking the planer, planing it so that they're much closer to level, if not level. And that way, when we install our AZEK deck boards, they're not up, down, like the joists are. Also, this planer is very nice. I think you did a review on it. Check it out on the YouTube channel. Cordless is great. I think the last time I had to use one of these guys, I had a cord, and it's not fun. So this guy is very nice and light, and works pretty well.
Ooh. Ooh. All right, guys, so this upper deck is done except for railing. I have all of the surface borders finished. We just are short a little bit of Cortex plugs. The plugs are on their way. They should be arriving today or Monday. So then we'll be able to finish putting our plugs in. Got the trim up against the wall, same thing, no plugs, oh well. And now what we have to do is we kind of took a right turn, and we're starting to frame up on this lower deck area that we're gonna redeck. We had to do some things to it to manipulate it because it had 2.5 inches of drainage, which is way too much. We jacked it up into level. Now we've planed out some of the joists that are too high or had some humps in it. Plane those flat so the decking doesn't do this or this or that. It just does this, all right? And then you can probably see it from here. The outside two, let's talk about that. Come here. The way the framers, or whoever framed this deck, framed the house, they framed this deck, they put in this glue lam, they put in the joists, and then they put this post in that supports this roof on top of the frame. What they should have done, they should have taken this post and they should have put it all the way through onto the top of this glue lam. And they didn't. They ran these cheap brackets that cost $1.99 at Home Depot, or maybe less, who knows, 10 years ago, probably less. And they didn't even put fasteners in every hole. So you can see right here, here's the difference in the height of where we have to bring the deck compared to where it was. Unfortunately, I could not raise this far corner outside of the deck because the post is sitting on top of these two joists, right? We are gonna add 2 more sisters to this joist so that we can create a surface border area for this deck, as well as cut a pie for these 2 joists to bring them up into the same plane as the rest of the deck. Then we're gonna add a 2x12 to the outside of this 2x8 so that we can bring it down and tie into this glue lamp. So by doing all of that, that's gonna make sure, because we had to cut away the outside ledger, the outside rim joist, we had to cut it away right here. So it's no longer part of this solid attachment. So we have to create a new solid attachment so that this corner doesn't want to waver, this post doesn't want to go this way. It's my due diligence to make sure that the bottom of this post is as solid as it was before we got here. So that's what we have to do now to make this proper. So, and it's taken us a lot longer to accomplish this than I even thought, because I never even gave the client a quote or a price. I said, oh yeah, we can do that, no problem. Well, 2 days into it now, it's starting to become a problem financially, all right? So we're gonna get that figured out. And then you can see Austin doubled up a joist over here, and we did that so that we could have a place to have our face fasteners, because it's hard to put screws, especially when you're Cortexing, it's hard to put a screw that close to the edge of the house when there's a door sill in the way. So we have that handled, and now that that's done, he can start G-taping all this up. So now all the planing's done on this deck, which means we took a power planer and we shaved the tops of the joists that needed it so that to avoid the roller coaster effect when we lay the decking down. Now that that's done, the guys will start taping this up, and then we just have to finish rebuilding the outside of this deck. Once that's done and we're all taped up, and then once we have the outside rim joist on, then we'll probably jump back onto this deck and finish the fascia boards, because we haven't finished our trim yet, the trim package on this deck. We're still waiting on our Regal Ideas railing. Hopefully I get a call for that, hopefully Monday, Tuesday at the latest. We have things to keep us busy, and once we get this deck laid, then we still have a step to add in between these 2 levels. The reason this deck is so high is because the client has a boat that he likes to park in this area, and the beams, everything had to be up because he has a large mast and he doesn't want to have to take the mast down every time he backs the boat in. So plus it has a killer view. We're a little higher, they get a little bit better view. You can see the ferry boat right now going over to Vashon Island. That's kind of cool. So we're getting there. I was just hoping to get a certain amount of completion done. And then something else that the client just added, actually kind of a major part, is we're going to be doing a set of stairs over here. So let's go take a look at that. So originally I had designed this deck to have a set of stairs going off the deck. Clients decided, you know what, we don't want them. Okay, all right, cool. I said, you know what, I'm gonna put it on the permit anyways, just in case. I sent them a new message. I say, hey, are you sure you don't want the stairs? 100% I'm not trying to upsell you. I just want to, before I submit for this permit, and they said, no, we do not want stairs. Thank you for asking twice. We're good. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, today we have a meeting, and they're like, is it too late to add the stairs? The clients are so happy with what we've done here. This is actually quite an engineering feat, what we've done. From the helical piles to the oversized glulam beams, waterproofing those beams, making sure they stay dry, getting the deck locked in with the V-bracing, and face screwing this deck with the Fasten Master Cortex screws. All the things that we've done to guarantee that this deck's not going to wobble or shift or rake, or when they're out here, they can get 40 people out here and party if they want. It will not matter. This deck will handle it. But now they want to have their access, which I 100% saw this 3 months ago. And so now I have to go back to the building department and say, you know what? We do want to add the stairs. So we are going to do that. There is one issue though. We have a heat pump that may or may not be in the way. So what I have to do is I have to do a layout on a piece of lumber to see where my staircase is going to land and if it's intersecting with that heat pump or not. So that's what's on the docket, and I'm hopefully going to figure that one out today because I want to give the client a new price to now add stairs to this side of the deck, which is going to totally change our rail order. It's going to change material supplies, all that stuff. But you know what? If that's what the client wants, that's what the client gets. I'm still going to make my margin on it. So, and it makes me happy because then it gets us closer to Christmas, which is what I want to do, because then we're taking a holiday break. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we're doing some deck trim and we're going to start laying some more decking on this lower section of deck that we raised up last week. All right, so basically what we have is this really wide beam, these glue lambs that we put in, and we've waterproofed them with some G-tape, and we just got to cover the outside of it so it looks nice when you're driving up the alley and you look up and you see kind of what's going on with these beams. So what we did, we had to use 3 pieces of material to cover the beam. So we started with a thick piece and then a thinner piece and then a thinner piece to kind of give it a triple stacked look, which is kind of a neat look. Started with a piece of 2x12 and then a piece of 5/4 by 8 and then a piece of 1x6 to kind of give it this staggered look. And we went from a large size to a smaller size to a smaller size to kind of give it a certain dimensional look to it as well. I think it looks nice, and we're almost done with that. And then once we get that done, we'll start figuring out what we want to do to start installing this deck over here. All right, so this weekend, or on Friday, I was talking to my clients and they decided, originally I had designed a staircase coming off this side of the deck, and then that's why I pushed the deck out 4 feet past the corner of the house, and then they decided, you know what, we don't want to do it. We kept the size of the deck that way in case in the future they wanted to put a staircase in, and now after seeing how well the deck's going in and how much they appreciate what we've done so far, they decided while we're here, we're gonna go ahead and put the staircase in. So I'm doing some quick figurings. I want to try and figure out if this is going to be in our way or not. Hopefully the heat pump clears, but there's only one way to find out, is to get this lumber cut kind of to where I need my stairs at and see how it looks and see how it fits. If it's not going to clear this heat pump, then we might have to build a landing right here, but I'm not sure. So I just want to kind of get some questions answered for my own personal reasons, and we'll go from there. All right, so I just put up my board, and unfortunately it intersects with the edge of the heat pump, which means we have to now build the landing over the top of the heat pump so that we can have a set of stairs to the landing and then get across the heat pump and then finish our stairs down on the other side of it. It wasn't what I was planning, but it is what it is, so we'll just have to get it done. It's a little more planning involved now, but at least I can start thinking about that while we're working on the other parts of the deck, so that when we're ready to get started on this, I kind of have an idea of what we're doing. All right, so our little deck is pretty much laid. Right now, Austin is up there plugging away on that. Naz is cutting up some framing for us so we can frame up and install our stair that connects the lower deck to the upper deck. So we're gonna do that, frame it down here, get it upstairs, install it, and then we can lay the decking on top of that as well. Hey guys, Dr. Decks here. Today we are rolling along with our Regal Ideas glass hand railing. It's aluminum and glass, 42 inches tall. We're doing a little secret, so don't tell the homeowner, but we're gonna add a light kit to this. What I'm doing is I'm actually redoing a board from last week. I'm changing up a pattern detail. There's really no way to cleanly do this, so I'm making an adjustment because I'm gonna show you why down here. So originally, we were supposed to have railing right here. And so I put this small wedge piece on the outside of the deck because nobody was ever gonna walk on it. It didn't really matter. I didn't have enough in multi-width to make it work. So there were several circumstances. I'm like, I'm just gonna put this ripped piece of material. That's usually what guys do, carpenters do when they're building and they need to fur something out. Well, we have decided to put a staircase in over here instead. What that means is we have to rework this area because now I have a weak piece of material that was on the very outside of the deck. Over time, that piece is just gonna get weak and fall apart. So instead of doing that, I'm gonna actually cut this board back at the house, like right here, and I'm gonna add a wider board to the outside of this deck, and then I'm gonna change the way it intersects with this. And that way, when that's all buttoned up, it's gonna be a little bit cleaner look. There's really no perfect way to do this. It's kind of a unique situation, but I think we have it figured out. We had done it one way, but now we're gonna change it so we have to accommodate not only the look, but the function and the form. So there you go. So that's what I'm doing. Nazi is working on the rail system. He's getting ready to level all the posts. DeckWiz, he went ahead and put in the crush blocks, or the crush support, so the middle of our railings don't ever sag, because we're putting heavy glass inside of each panel. So that's what's going on right now. We got a lot of different tasks on hand. Right now, Austin is down below putting in some extra support that I need on the corner of the deck because I changed everything, and we're almost there. So we're gonna get that installed and then we can continue on this rail.
I didn't drop any tools this time. Somebody liked to point that out on the last video. I got my one glove on, and this hand I made sure was pretty calloused, so it's really grippy. So it should be good. But I am putting in a Real Ideas post here. And I got a string line up here, and that string line I attached to both ends of the corner posts. And so by doing that, sometimes, as much as we try, even though our framing's level and our boards are level, sometimes things can get out of whack. So if I were to fasten these, I should have had you look at it before, but they were like all over the place. So by putting the string level in, putting some shims in, I am ensuring that everything's in a straight line. And then I put in some caulking in here, so that way when I sink these bolts, the bolts won't allow any water to go onto our glue lam or our whitewood, which isn't treated, and we don't want those to rot. All good things. Now if I can just hold on to my tools, we'll be in business. So this is it's kind of a specialty fit system, and with Regal you can see there's like little welds in here, so purposely we have to cut the railing like a ½ inch short just to account for these welds, and I did not cut enough, so I'm gonna go back down, cut this guy so that way I can fit it in here.
Good morning, YouTube. So what my latest task was today was I was adding a extra support block right here to our last joist and our ledger board. Right here we were putting 2 screws into our deck board and there was nothing to attach them to, so I just took a measurement from the rim joist to the outer joist right here and then put a block right here so we could put 2 screws into. Drdecks likes to call it a crush block. So basically we just like to center this in the middle of the panel bracket so there's no bowing or anything with the glass, because the glass of course is a little heavier. So this is just an extra support bracket we like to put on the rail system.
Man, you really snuck up on me there.
It was the attention you ordered.
The attention? Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. Well, you saw I put a string on the front side of my railing. So now I'm putting the string over here to make sure everything's straight as well. And yeah, pretty simple stuff going on. I don't know what else to say.
All right, so we have those boards replaced and everything looks great. We also almost have our entire upper run of railing ready to go. So we'll be dropping glass in those pretty soon. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a line for the lower deck, install the last border board that needs to be installed, and then we can finish installing the rail posts and the railing for that section as well. And we're gonna be installing a light kit into this railing, so I'm going to start on that, and that's kind of a surprise for the homeowner, so they don't know we're doing it. They might see wires hanging out or whatever, but I thought it'd be kind of a cool add to this project if they could light up their glass. So we're going to be doing that as well, and then just try to get some completion on this rail. Whenever you do something good or free or include something, it always comes back and bites you in the butt. I was thinking, no problem, I can bury these transformers in the post that's gonna be right up against the house. It's right by this power. It's perfect, perfect. Guess what? I'm using mounts on the side of the house, not a post. Oh my gosh, God. I can't believe it. So, I just ripped the rail back apart. To my extreme delight, I just figured out that this transformer will actually fit in the top of the top rail. So I'm gonna sneak 2 of these things through the top rail, which actually gives me a little bit better vantage. I just want to make sure that this is going to fit. Like, I don't know 100% if this is going to fit or not. I think it's going to fit. It looks like it was going to fit. I'm getting too excited. You know, a lot of times our job is problem solving. That solves my problem. So all I got to do now is either cut this down so I can get my wire past, well, this wire, the power wire. So I need to get 2 of these power wires. This might be a challenge, but I need to get 2 of these power wires past this edge right over here, and I have to take the bracket off just to get the rail on. But once I get that done, I got to have these transformers so that we can light up this rail system. And usually we dump them in a post, which I could do 1 or maybe 2 of them there, but I got to be able to get the cable through over to the power supply and keep it as clean as possible. So we will have two wires that go from here down to here and over to here. So I call that a win. Nas, can you bring up that other transformer inside the trailer? All right. All right, so there we have it. There's 3 colors on the Regal Ideas lighting. Each one has an individual color LED, and that's why they do it this way. They don't make it multiple colors. They just wanted to have 3 colors that work good all the time. So there's white, there's gold, and there's blue. And we'll show you how that looks in a future episode. Hey guys, Dr. Dex here. Today we are working on staircases and landings. We're right in the middle of framing up a landing and putting in some posts and some footings so that we can start framing up a staircase. All right, let's go check this out. We know where our landing is placed, and we need to put a couple posts down from the landing all the way to the ground. We're putting some 18-inch oversized footing blocks in the ground, and then we're going to use adjustable saddles, put in our 4x6s, and then crank them up to the right level. And that's what we're doing right now. So I have my Stabila plate level, and just to verify what we did, we drew a circle where our footing needed to go, and then we cut it out, dug the hole, put our footing in there, and it's pretty accurate where we need it to be. So this one's good. It's ready to go. Looks good. We just got to finish this one up, and then we'll be able to put these posts in. Okay, so now we have our landing framed up. We're ready to start framing up our staircase, which I think we're going to bring into this side yard area and do here, because once it's completely framed up, it's going to be extremely heavy to lift and try to get through this gate. It's going to be wider than the gate. So I think that's our next step, is kind of move some things around and get this staircase kind of placed where we want it, and we'll go from there. This way. I mean, I don't want to. I'm thinking as long as I stop in front of the. All right, so I thought I had this thing licked. We cleared the heat pump. Everything's looking good, but then we have all these service boxes on the side of the house over here, which I thought we were going to clear, but we are not clearing. And I was thinking about moving these two or lowering them, which I probably could do. This one I'm not so sure about because there's stuff going right into the house right here. But this one I don't want to move. So we have to go back to the drawing board, reframe this landing bigger, push it out another 3 deck boards for about 16.5 inches so that we can clear all this stuff on the side of the house. The bonus to this is that it'll give us more ventilation on the heat pump, but the bummer is I got to tear this down that we just built and start over. So the first 4 hours of the day have been ruined. It is what it is. Sometimes, you know, you come into these things thinking one thing and then things change. We're gonna tear this landing down and reframe it, start over, remount it, and then cry a little bit. I'm probably still gonna have to lower this one telephone box, but I'm pretty sure I can do that. I gotta see where the wires are going into the house and how much slack we have. But everything else can remain the way it is if I just change the width of the landing, and then I'll have to go get new glass and so on and so forth, but it is what it is. So I think I'd rather just eat the time, fix the problem we have, and then move on. So that's what we're gonna do. Gotta go this way an inch. Good? Yep. Yeah. All right, we're almost to the point where we were before I realized we had a problem. So sometimes that's the way it goes, man. That's the brakes. It is what it is. Hey guys, drdecks here. Today we're continuing on with our staircase and landing area that we so conveniently built twice last week. And while I'm at it, I'm prepping the lower step area. I'm clearing away some cables and cleaning up some stuff a little bit so that my staircase clears it, because I didn't leave a lot of clearance against the wall. All right, so this particular box here, which is phone lines, I had to drop about 6 inches so when my staircase comes down, it doesn't interfere with it. So while I was at it, I disconnected the home cable and rerouted it and routed it on top so I could get my lines as close and as tight to the house as possible, because I gave myself basically this piece of flashing right here is what I'm putting my staircase to, and all these cables were sitting down here before, and I was like, uh-oh, that gives me another inch. My whole bottom of my staircase would be pushed out an inch, and I didn't want to do that. I want to be able to actually attach maybe one fastener to this piece of trim right here. So what I'm gonna do, now that I've got this all tidy, next time they paint, or you know, most of this won't even be seen. You won't see a lot of these black zip ties. You can kind of see how they just got painted on the last go around when they painted the house. There was a few extra cables in here that weren't even hooked up, so I cut those back to clean my line up, because if they ever need those again, they can extend them from this point and go forth. But I didn't want the unnecessary cables in my way. So I've got that done. The guys are inside the garage assembling the staircase. We're gonna assemble it, G-tape it, and then strap it to a cart and bring it back here. It's very heavy. Normally I would assemble it back here, but because we wanted to keep it completely dry, we left it in the garage all weekend so it would dry out, so our G-tape would stick to it. So they're working on that right now, and I just came out here to kind of prep this area. I had a template that I used. Now everything clears, so took us a few extra hours to revamp the landing and make sure the staircase is gonna fit and all that stuff. But now that it's done, I can go forth, and when we bring the staircase in here, know that this area is gonna clear. All the communications, cable, telephone, other stuff is all gonna clear. Power for the heat pump, all that. Everything's gonna clear the staircase now. So I just had to finish that up. That's ready to go. And I'm just gonna clean up my mess in here and kind of go inside and see how the guys are doing.
Alright, so Austin and I are taking these 2x12s that he pre-cut. On this side we're 10 1/8, on that side we're 10 1/4. So we're trying to match with the whole span of the staircase. And then what these are going to do is we're putting 3 screws in here. And these guys, we put some in the back. But what they're going to do is act as flat blocking for our deck. So we're putting a mitered 45 here. And by having this here, we've got plenty of room to screw into. If we had a 45 without this in here, we would not have enough room to screw into, and it would kind of compromise the structural rigidity of our stringers. So by putting this in, we got plenty of places to screw, and we got plenty of places to put our miters into. And we're also having it's called a picture frame, so we're gonna have a piece of decking here that's gonna be in a 45. So this piece of decking is only gonna be hanging over maybe a 1/2 inch, if that, and then the rest of it's gonna be sitting on this. So this guy's acting as support for that. So long explanation, but you'll see it in a minute. Or tomorrow. Maybe Wednesday when DJ Studio Man's on.
All right, the hard part's done. We got our staircase in place, finally. Thank goodness. That was a fun ride, huh? You guys enjoy that? Okay, so the staircase is in place. We're gonna break for lunch, and then we come back. We're gonna set the rest of our posts and footings in place, and then start doing some details on our decking and trim. Probably do the trim. Do the trim today, decking tomorrow. Austin is punching some holes through this geogrid or this like paver grid stuff. It's like a precast concrete style paver, and we're gonna pour some concrete in the base of our staircase, and then we're gonna use some precast footing blocks for the center of our staircase. Instead of pouring concrete there, they're adjustable, and they're 18 inches round, so they provide a really great footprint for loading. So I'm happy with those. The engineer was cool with it, so that's what we're gonna use. That's what we use for our landing, and then we're gonna use it for the mid-span of our staircase. And then we'll pour some concrete for the base.
It's not going.
Hey guys, drdecks here. Today we are trying to button up most of the construction portion of this deck build. We got our staircase installed yesterday. We just finished up our landing and all of our borders. And now we are installing the last portion of our Regal Ideas hand railing, which is one straight piece of glass and then a bunch of angled pieces of glass going down the staircase. Our staircase is a 35-degree angle, so it's really conducive to what Regal Ideas is putting out, because they make all their stair glass, angled stair glass pickets at a 35-degree angle. So that's probably one of the more average pitches. We are usually between 32 and 35 degrees. So it's a cool way to highlight your stairs. If you do all glass and you don't want to do a picket railing down your staircase, Regal Ideas does sell pre-cut, pre-made 35-degree staircase glass that you can use to make it look nice. So, or at least to match what you have going on your main deck. So let's see, what else do I got for you? So that's what we're trying to do today, is get all that done, and then we'll be trimming out. We've called for a final inspection tomorrow, so we just got to make sure all our structural stuff and all our code compliance stuff is done, and then we'll be doing some cosmetic stuff tomorrow. So this is probably the last day that you'll be on this site. I hope to be finished with this project tomorrow. Our camera guy won't be here tomorrow, so let's make the most of today, okay? All right, let's check this out. I think we should come back and have them do it.
Yeah. So I'm cutting these top and bottom rails for our landing. And so the way Regal sets it up is, I think we talked about it over there, but you got to cut a 1/2 inch shorter for the welds. So on this one, the top and bottom are slightly different in length. And then what I'm going to do is there's a little plastic insert that holds the glass. So I'll cut that a 1/4 inch shorter than what this is. And then this guy gets the same plastic insert, but it's going to be kind of have a clear coat on it. So that way when we put our LED light strips in this channel, the lights will shine through the cap. So almost there.
Alright guys, so it took a minute, but we have our gaps now. We know what our gap is between the high and the low. We're about 2 inches. So that took a minute to figure out, but you can kind of see how the glass pickets are installed. We have our LED light up in this. So this is what the staircase rail looks like, and we're gonna continue finishing this out. So we thought we had it home free, but our blue line for some reason stopped working right here. I've got the LED right here, so the connector, so I'm hoping it's just this connection. The other two colors work, but blue is not. I gotta take this whole stupid thing apart just to fix this stupid blue. Oh, I'm frustrated. Alright, so now we tore the rail apart, 2 sections of the stair rail apart, and we have all 3 colors. So now we can put the rail back together again. Alright, I love doing things 3 times. It's awesome. So at least we know it works. We're going to finish taping up a couple spots on the LED so that they don't want to pull apart for expansion and contraction. And then we'll put the glass back in, and then this part of the deck should be wrapped. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I very much appreciate it. If you like what you saw, don't forget to click that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be notified when we're putting out fresh content. Don't forget to share our videos with all your friends and comment below. You never know, I might be able to get back to you with some answers. Thank you very much. Have a great day.